It was found in one of the small rooms of those column halls, and they found 3 people with the ball. One of them had the ball, in his hands, and they could reconstruct the whole event. The site of Hassanlu was attacked by the Urartians around 800 BC, because it was a center for the Manians, who were an ally of the Assyrians, and the Urartians were in war with the Assyrians. Anyway, they, in order to weaken or counter the Assyrian influence in the area, one of the Urartian kings, Ishpuini, attacked the site of Hassanlu and burned it down. We don't know if these people were invaders or defenders of the site, but they were probably in the 2nd floor, and they were running with the gold ball when the whole building collapsed and killed them. American archaeologists found traces of that violent attack or invasion by the Urartians. Actually, you see one of the skulls, and the man was probably killed by this. You see, this is a hole, probably from a mace head or something very sharp, and another skeleton completely crushed in the invasion. Hassanlu was also famous for, or is also famous for, this tomb of Hassanlu lovers. A couple in their eternal bed, going back probably to 900 BC. Again, the site is also famous for the visit of some celebrities. Some of you who were interested in British mystery know Agatha Christie, who was married to an archaeologist, Sir Maxime Allouin, actually her 2nd husband, and they visited the site in, I think, 1971, when Malouin went to Iran. I told you about the American excavations in southern Iran. This is probably the most important excavation, or excavations done by an American team in the 70s. It's the famous capital of the old Elamite kingdom, Anshan or Anzan, in southern Iran, known as Tel Malian, excavated by a team from the University of Pennsylvania under William Samner in the 70s. And I'd like to mention these publications, very important, influential publications in Iranian archaeology, all done by Americans. The first really accessible synthesis of the Elamite civilization, done by Elizabeth Carter, who is now a professor at UCLA, and Matt Stolper, another professor at the University of Chicago. Another important publication is the Archaeology of Western Iran, organized by Frank Hall. It's a series of essays on the archaeology of Western Iran. And the only synthesis on the Paleolithic Iran is by another American, Philip Smith, actually a Canadian, who became a professor in the University of Montreal in Canada. Let me talk briefly about some attempts to resume excavations in Iran after 1979. This is after the Islamic Revolution. Nothing happened between 79 and, let's say, 2000. in regard with the American involvement in the archaeology of Iran. In 2003, the Cultural Heritage Organization of Iran, which is in charge of archaeological operations in the country, organized a big conference and invited foreign archaeologists and a dozen of American archaeologists who had worked before in Iran. On the occasion of this conference, and I think Science Magazine published a special issue on Iran with interviews and a number of articles. And this was a big event, not that everybody was invited, I wasn't invited. Not to say that I am somebody, but you know, it was a sort of a very big conference under security, with all the security forces around the former Hotel Hilton in northern Tehran. A very prestigious conference with ministers, professors, etc. The possibility of working in Iran was well received after that, especially in the US, and there were at least two big projects that were supposed to be carried out in cooperation with American teams. One at Shahr Homs, this is the famous capital of the Parthians in northeastern Iran, by my former advisor David Stronach, near Danwan, and the other at Istakhr. This again famous, probably Achaemenid, but for sure Sasanian and medieval site near Persepolis. They didn't happen. And the chance for an active cooperation with American archaeologists has diminished since 2006. And equally, it's most unfortunate that almost all the Iranian archaeology chairs in this country have recently been lost. And consequently, the teaching of archaeology has been effectively reduced in North American institutions.